Hey there, welcome to the Workstation podcast brought to you by Harold Patrick Recruitment. On today's episode, we have a wonderful guest, Bob Stamatopoulos. Bob is a very experienced engineer specialising in the stamping tool industry. He started off as a tool designer. He's worked in the tool room and sales, worked his way through to be a manager over various departments. But he also has another side as well, where he's also a lecturer specialising in developing and educating the new generation manufacturers.
The Workstation Podcast, brought to you by Harold Patrick Recruitment.
Bob, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today. It really is. How's it going today?
It's going well. Thanks for having me today.
No, you're very welcome. Lovely to speak to you. I think let's get going. What's made you smile recently?
Yeah. See, now I watched your podcast and I knew that question was, you're going to love this story. So I got laid off June 14th. On my drive home, I started networking. I called you, obviously. You set up an appointment for me. I called up somebody I interviewed with in November, and he called me in first. And we had a really good interview. And then I went to the interview you scheduled, and they hired me, and I appreciate that very much. It turns out that the place that hired me was the place that the first guy was working and left the position.
Really?
So my advice to younger people is that the networking here is unbelievable. If you're in manufacturing, you will meet people everywhere.
With that, I think it's in any walk of life. Really, it's you never know what's around the corner. So just making those connections, because you never know when they're going to come to fruition.
Yep.
When I received that text from you, and like we've said before, wow, it was just timing as it goes. Yeah, after we spoke last year. But no, thanks for that. That has made me smile. But no, right, let's get cracking.
Yep.
So let's start from the beginning. Tell us how you got into manufacturing, and was this always your personal plan?
Okay, so I am second generation metal stamping.
Fantastic.
My father started working in a metal stamping facility in 1963. And when I came of high school age, of course, that's where we spent summers working with Dad. He was a maintenance mechanic that worked on presses and tool room equipment and knew how to run them all. And I had an interest in high school in pencil drafting. Those days were long. And so I was drafting for about 6 years. And then when I started going to college, I focused on drafting again, and was in a hurry to get to work and married. And so I dropped out of school and basically started working full-time at my dad's facility as a drafter. And then, of course, after a couple of years, they had me designing stamping tools. I sat with a chief engineer, an old German guy, who said the only way you're going to learn this business is to do everything here. So for a year, every Friday, I went to the tool room and learned how to run those machines. Another year, I went out and I was working the warehouse and inventory, production scheduling, material purchasing, and ultimately they brought me back into the engineering office, and I focused on design, progressive tool design. I did that with my dad for 10 years. It was a great experience. And then it was the late 80s, and CAD was coming in, computer-aided design. And I interviewed for a very high-end technical place that offered me CAD. And that's when my career really took off. When I started learning CAD.
Did you feel a natural draw, excuse the pun, towards design, or was that where you felt more comfortable, or were you more skilled on that than kind of maybe the machining, the tooling, or the quality, or any other aspects of manufacturing?
The drawing is what drew me in.
You can't avoid it, can you?
In sixth grade, I was drawing cars and trucks. Some of them actually look like the Tesla truck that you see today, back in the 70s, And so that always stayed with me. I had an excellent mentor/instructor in high school.
Okay.
They had a 4-year drafting program, and every year was a different subject matter. So the first year was literally just mechanical drawing. Then it was industrial drawing, so we got cams and gears and things like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of caught my interest. The final 2 years were architectural drawing. So he took us out in the field, and he actually had us doing surveying properties, and then coming back in, and we each got a final project for an entire year. We designed the house, put it on the property, built a scale model for it, and that really piqued my interest to stay in this business of design. When I first went to college, I will not lie, I started in architectural college.
Okay.
Um, but going back to work with my dad, it actually drew me into the industry, and that was it for me. Like I said, very fortunate to have an old German mentor that believed in apprenticeship, you know? So,
Very German, very very high precision, very efficient, as
yep.
apparently as the old saying goes. On the manufacturing side, do you think obviously you biased in your early career towards the design side, but do you think having that broad based practical and theoretical knowledge of how a factory works, if you want help, which when you use design because you understand DFM, you understand the quality, the manufacturing side, and made you a more rounded engineer and then manager ultimately?
That broad base got me every job I've ever had. So I have times been hired as a design engineer and then migrated away from it and wound up being a department manager. Or mostly, and this has been for the last 20 years, if I am managing the engineering department, it's also with the tool room. So it's engineering and tooling management. So, but
Okay.
you have to understand how it all works. You
No,
know.
you definitely do. And do you find the companies, if you want, obviously, because you through your career you've worked for a couple of different companies, obviously, as you've progressed, would you say that companies still do that in your experience, have that broad based, or do you think that people, if you want, specialize or have that demarcation earlier in their career?
Well, what I see is as you age, get older, and higher into management, they want the broad base.
Yeah,
Okay. Certainly, if you're doing manufacturing engineering, you'd better know how a machine shop works, or they don't want you.
I think it's absolutely
Because always the
essential
first question
personally.
I get: have you ever worked in a machine shop before? And I want to be able to answer that is yes.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And do you think that companies these days, in your experience, when you've had, if you want trainees or apprentices, if you want directly or indirectly, if you're reporting into you, do you still think companies are giving that broad-based experience, or do you think that's something that's not done so much anymore these days?
I think companies are so desperate for tool and die makers, machinists,
Yes.
that they focus on it. So they bring you in as an apprentice. We have some formal programs that I've worked with for apprenticeships, and I hate to say pigeonhole, but they lock you in. They
Yeah,
lock
it
you in.
does.
And really, at the end of 4 years, if you're making $75,000 a year, why would you want to leave? You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It is a strange one. Yourself, looking through your career, you've obviously, as well as working the design side, the manufacturing side, production side, and sales and commercial side, you've spent time on that side of things as well.
Yes.
How have you adapted in different environments, different processes as you've progressed?
Well, that funny you brought it up because the sales engineering side of it for me is the most exciting because it
Really?
gets me out meeting other companies. And the way I progressed in it is that original job where I started with the cat. It was all high tech stuff, and so we would design product and or tooling for companies, and they would ask the engineers to go on site with the customer, make a presentation, and then that kind of led into the sales end of it anyway, because you build a rapport with the customer as an
Yeah.
engineer even, and they will call you directly. What can you do for me? How can you help me? What can you design for me? That type of thing.
And
So.
do you think that's something? Is that's to do with a combination of your personality, but also the fact that you've got a true technical background, so you're able to build that double-edged rapport with your customer?
Well, if you ask my wife, I don't have much personality. I'm an engineer, but I actually, in my career, I've really enjoyed delivering product to customers. It's very fulfilling for me, and so I enjoy that connection. Again, the networking thing.
It's true,
I've
isn't it?
actually gotten jobs from companies that I've sold product to. So, if you build that rapport, it's very satisfying.
I think it's true, and I think it's just it shows it's tantamount to just human connection these days, even in manufacturing, which is, if you want, deemed from the outside potentially to be a bit of a closed, cold type environment. If you don't understand it, is how it can be viewed from the outside. But I think it's very social, especially when you're working, say, in a tool room or if you're in a production shop. You got to get on with everyone, really, to
Hi,
make
Nick.
things work and to keep yourself sane.
What I found interesting in the sales engineering part of it, my first foray into delivering a product to a corporation was with TRW Automotive
Yeah,
Electronics, big company.
huge company.
And it was very intimidating, and I didn't think I'd be able to talk to anybody. That's not how it happened. I had a product that one project group needed, and I got friendly or familiar with those guys. And after a while, in the course of a year, I was in and out to Detroit maybe 6 or 8 times, always with those people. The, the billboard was intimidating, but it was just regular people at the end of the day.
That's all it is. We are just people. We make our
Hmm.
decisions. We do what we do. We connect with each other, and theoretically, we're all striving for the same goal. Theoretically,
Right.
to improve and to progress. If we've got a problem, we help each other out. That's how it should be, in my opinion. Now, you've obviously progressed on the design side through engineering to being a leader of men and women, of
And
course,
boys.
and boys and everything. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
how did that happen? How did you, if you make the leap, or was it more so a transition to being an engineer on the technical side to being a leader? Was it gradual, or was it a step? How did it happen?
It was two steps.
Sure.
So
Okay.
originally, I was out of my dad's first company for about 10, 15 years, and that German guy retired. And they called me up and they said, "Would you like to take over this department? You know the company's products, you know the company's tools." I designed some of their tools. I was very familiar, and I went into it that way. Company had some financial difficulties, and 3 years later, I was out. That was exasperating, I would say the least. And and so I did take some jobs outside the field for about a year. It was right during the recession, 2008, and
Tough time.
and a friend of mine actually was teaching at the local community college, and he asked if I could come in. They have a tech center, and it's all CAD related, and a machine shop that was donated by the Stryker Corporation,
Yeah.
and they needed somebody to come in and teach technical stuff. And they asked me to come in. So it was a part-time job. It was an evening class type of thing. And then one of our local manufacturing companies called up the college and said, "We need somebody to do some on-site training for our employees here. Can you do that?" And so they sent me there, and I went and I taught a class. And the next thing you know, I had a job at the company. so so now it's always been my regular day job as an engineering manager slash machine shop manager, as well as evening I change hats and become a college professor. So that's where I get the interaction with the younger people, and that's really exciting.
Do,
Yeah.
do, do you find that side as fulfilling, or more fulfilling than the manufacturing side? Because obviously you've been through so much in your career that I think you're entitled to have a preference if you have one.
Pros and cons to both.
Sure.
I still enjoy the technical manufacturing side of the world. I love to go to work every day. Besides the delivery schedules and things that make your hair fall out, that's doing good. Um, And on the flip side, I enjoy tremendously teaching the class that I do. It's called Applied Metrology, and it's basically how to run a quality department. And you will get people that want to be there, and you'll also get a few that don't want to be there. And that's the con to that job, is I could have a class with 10 people in it, and two or three of them are just there to take the credit, and five or six of them are there to go into the field. And that's the exciting part. And friends of mine in the industry are taking advantage of it. Funny thing, you'd like to see, Andy. So one of the reasons my class fills up every semester, I run a field trip. Same field trip, 13 years, 26 semesters I've been doing it.
Hmm.
And I go to a company called New Jersey Precision Technologies. They
Hmm.
are,
I do know them. Yeah.
they're a wire EDM house. And because they're open 24 hours a day, I can bring a night class in. I bring 10 students in, and Bob picks over them.
Yeah.
so if,
I can
so
see
if I
that
don't get them
happening.
in my shop, he takes them for his. He's hired about 6 or 8 of my students over the
It's a
years.
nice little conveyor
But
belt, isn't it? Really? Yeah.
yeah, but I consider it recruiting for the industry. I really do.
But
And
it's
if you've
great.
spoken to Bob, I can tell you he's the biggest promoter of the industry I've ever seen.
Bob is a
You know,
real proponent. I have invited him on here, but it's not quite at the moment. So I think that's fantastic, and I think in that environment as well, from what you're giving them, from your experience and your passion and your there you go, quality knowledge, metrology. We talked about sales, engineering, and manufacturing, but there you go, you're
yes,
teaching metrology. So from giving them that, and obviously Bob in NJPT is incredibly passionate as well in his business, and he does have high standards in that company as well. So people that you're taking through to learn the broad-based contract manufacturing, the materials that they use, etc. I think that's just step on step on step. Personally,
yep,
I think that's a fantastic way of doing things. It really is.
yep. So what's interesting, I run a 16-week semester, and I can only teach you for 3 or 4 weeks how to run a micrometer or a caliper or a ruler or a height gauge. So what I do is I expand it into metallurgy,
Yep.
and then I expand it into heat treating and measurement of heat treating, And then we expanded into CMM. So people, they don't get expert at it, but they at least touch it and they can say
Get
they've
enough
seen it.
broad-based or ground-based.
And then I explain to them manufacturing processes. So we do get into stamping, and I go off on a tangent there. And then we get into CNC machining and all of these things. So in the 16-week course, they're getting about 4 weeks of measuring instruments, and the rest is broad-based manufacturing.
Bob, I think you should be hosting this. I really do, with all that knowledge and information there. I think we found another niche for you, my friend. Listen, from what that is, and if you want, giving all that to people, and generations have changed from obviously different age groups, etc. How receptive? Let's take the people that want to be there, like you mentioned, that they're in two camps. The people that want to be there, which is wonderful. How receptive are they in terms of taking on board what you have to say?
They're the guys that sit in the front row.
Fantastic.
The people that sit in the front row, they're paying attention.
Yeah.
The people are snoozing in the back, I know why you're there. So, but not only that, but because I recognize that they're really interested, I'll give them more on the side.
Of course.
So their class is it's a long class. It's a 4-hour night, once a week. It's 2 hours of lecture and 2 hours of lab. And I'll take them off on a lab assignment and show them other stuff, and give them more than they asked for. So, and it's exciting for me too. I enjoy it immensely.
It keeps you up to date as well, although principles in obviously metallurgy, heat treatment, etc., they are fundamental. They do change with regard to technologies, so I guess it keeps you abreast of developments in the industry as well, doesn't it? Which helps you in your day job, so to speak.
I do a lot of networking. I go to trade shows. My employers always say, "Why you got a trade show? You know what you're looking at." No, I got to meet people. I got to see what's out there, see the latest and greatest, technology that's there.
Especially on the CMM side. My assumption is with CMM and AI being integrated as well, it's giving you an extra angle in terms of obviously from the measurement of the components to the processing, etc., the modeling.
Incredible. Yeah, it's incredible.
And I guess with regard to new generation, that's feeding into their interest in maybe the computer generation, and if you want bridging the gap.
They're better than we are at this stuff. So they can do CMM really well because they know how to run a computer really well.
Bob, it took us 3 goes to actually get this started today, so yeah, amen to that. I did pay the credit
You're
card.
So I'm always amazed the fact that we can talk live instantaneously across the ocean.
Oh, it really is fantastic. So with those two aspects of the day job on the management side and in a manufacturing engineering tooling type environment, and then if you want on the night shift leading people, leading engineers and manufacturers of the future, what traits do you think you need for both sides of the coin, and how do they correlate with each other?
For both sides of the coin, I need a basic education, mathematical and science education.
Sure.
There's a lot of, I'm in a community college, so people are just struggling through high school and arrive at my doorstep. And a lot of them are lacking the basic mathematics.
Sure.
And I actually have on my first night's lecture a little 20-minute, chapter on mathematics, fractions and decimals. And they say nobody uses fractions anymore. I said, except the machine shop. If you go out there, a 1/4-inch drill better equal 0.250, and you don't know that. And so that's my biggest concern, is that the basic education is not being met. It's funny, like we have friends in town and we see the students are either on a very high level of education, they do very well, advanced placement courses, or they're just getting by and getting out of high school. Those are the guys I wind up with. So what is interesting with students, particularly when on 2 companies, I've actually started apprenticeship programs, formal apprenticeship programs, state approved, grants and all of that. And when I do like an open house and I bring people in to try and entice them, I get youngsters, I get 17, 18-year-old kids that are coming out of high school, and they come with their parents. And what it is the parents are dragging them to say, this is an alternative to you going to college. And when those nights are over or during the introductions and stuff, I get the parents coming to me. What can I do to get my son into this program? This is so good. I say, basically what you want to do is make them enthusiastic about it. You can't drag them in. They have to want to be there. But once they hook up and get a grasp on it, it's a lot of fun. Mostly you get the kids that are in these programs are very mechanically inclined. They have a lot of good skills. And now you're giving them an opportunity to do something. And then all of a sudden it picks up speed. You
Do
know,
you find those kids, if you're where the parents stay behind and maybe speak to you to kind of give them a not a catalyst, but to kind of to get them in? You mentioned about them being mechanically minded. Do you find that at home they're maybe building things like you drawing things or playing, building cars or out in the yard, stripping things down with their families, etc. Do you find that's the
yeah,
type, which is a bit of a cliche, but it shows that mind, that aptitude, doesn't it? Is that still the case of the type of people that you find do well in your class?
they
Yeah,
do really well.
yeah.
Yep. So, and actually, I have like been doing this a long time, so I have these typical opening questions. And,
Okay.
and first thing I'll say to the class, anybody a car guy? Because that's me. Okay. I was building cars in high school, and so that kind of stayed with me. And now again, you're trying to identify people. If there's a guy in there that's a car guy and he knows how a cam works in a
Yeah,
V8, he'll do well in this class.
yeah, very
I
well.
know it. I can see it. And I'll lose him to that guy poaching my kids in New
You can
Jersey.
just see it happening.
Yeah, yeah.
Somewhere
But
down the line.
the advantages that I'm seeing too is that the newer generation actually has a leg up on us because I can take you mechanically up to a point. CAD systems I can do really well. But some of these guys got electronics backgrounds,
Yeah,
that I never had.
it's a different
Some of
level,
these
isn't it?
guys can program cobots that I could never do. I had to teach myself how to do this stuff. And for them, it comes naturally.
It
And you got
is.
to identify those students and say, these guys will do well.
I think the people, it's about how the mind works, isn't it? Because especially on the programming side, if you have a logical mind, logical process, you can learn the language, you can learn the logic behind the system to be able to put the code
Hmm.
together. It's just learning how to put those building blocks and coding together. I remember the
Yes.
first time I was probably 30 odd years ago. The first time I ever saw like a line of code, and it was to program something very simple in school. I think it was to program a robot that drew on a piece of paper, something really simple like that. But the principles were there, and it's as I'm not an engineer, I've worked in around the sector for a long time. That stayed with me, and a couple of times I have tried to learn PLC coding. I have a 3D printer downstairs, so I understand G coding from that perspective. I can go into the
Right.
program, etc., on the CAD CAM and make edits. But I have an interest in building things. My desk, as you can't see, my camera stand is a drill press. I'd love to do a. It really is. It's an old drill press, and I've got 3D printed stuff all over the place. I like
Right.
making things, and I think if you have that in you, a career in manufacturing or what you give, if you want, can expedite that into a career. When I
Hmm.
grew up in the kind of 90, mid 90s when I was at school, we were very much pushed towards academia, law. It was just the nature of the school, and I
Yeah.
didn't go into that. If I didn't, I'd be an engineer. I think. I hope.
Yeah. Yep.
But
It's the same thing here.
it's just the
So,
way the world was. So in terms of traits that kids need in terms of the manufacturing side, kind of that base math skill set, because mathematics is the foundation to everything on the engineering side. What
right.
personality trait do you find that you need to be able to balance the management side in the day job and the, if you want, the leadership and the motivation side in the night shift?
You're asking what I need?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. For me during the day, it's patience. Um, depending on the size of the staff I'm working with,
Sure.
um, I have to learn personalities that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
I'm a very accommodating person. I get along well with everybody, but I find I have to shift my personality to do that. Some people you have to be more forceful with. Some people you have to pat them on the back a little bit, be nice with, and you got to know where the balance is.
So adaptability.
I find, yeah, absolutely, and per person, and then I find if I have, let's say, I think when I start the new job, I've got a staff of 10. I've got to be more even keeled and lay the rules out clearly so that they understand who I am. And then one on one, as the day goes by, I sneak up behind somebody, I tap them on the shoulder, we chat, and we get to know each other. But establish a foundation to get going, and then see who you're working with, so to speak. And for me, and this has always been in the machine shop environment, you find your superstars, find the people that you can really count on. Give them a difficult, if there was a problem, give it to them, see how they deal with it, and they will bring the rest of the crew up with them. So in the evening, it's the same type of thing. One of the most exciting things I ever did or ever had happen in my class is when we went to the 2 hour lab session, a group of guys came to me and said, "Hey, can we work together? Can we like sit at one bench and do this stuff together?" Absolutely. And they built themselves a team. And all of those guys went through that semester and they aced it. It was great.
Wow.
So it's nice for me to see students. Now, there are some students that tell you, oh, I hate to do group work. But here was a group of guys, similar interests, wanted to go into manufacturing and decided they would, teach each other how to do it.
That's lovely
So
to hear.
that's motivational for me. Then I have other students that want to do well. And like I said, will be lacking the basics. So I'll give them extra work to take home. I understand with the community college students that one of the problems they may have had in high school, present company included, was doing homework. So I tell them at the beginning of the semester, you will not get homework here. We have enough time for a 2-hour lecture and a 2-hour lab. There shouldn't need to be any homework if you can't get it done in the 2-hour lab. But if I find a student that needs a little extra, take this, try this, And if they want to, they will. You can only do so much, Andy, and then, So, but I've had some good results like that.
Fantastic.
And then what happens is I find out from the other instructors in the program, the CAD guys and the drafting guys, they say that they appreciate the help, that they're staying in because the people are pushing them along. So, and I find out from the other instructors too. Hey, whatever that trip is that you're doing, it's bringing people in. And for me, it's easy. I go and I take this field trip and I hand them over to the business owner, and I sit back for 2 hours and watch.
Have a coffee, absolutely.
It's like watching Steve Jobs up on the stage.
I can well imagine. Things have come a long way in terms of manufacturing over the last 10, 15, 20 years or so. Fundamentals haven't really changed, but technology has. You mentioned cobots briefly as well. What other changes have you seen or have impacted your field, do you think, over your career?
Biggest impact I've seen, and this is as the technology improved over time, was the wire EDM.
Right, yeah.
So the designers that are doing tools now have learned to design to wire EDM. We used to just make a part in a wire EDM machine and then put it into the tool. Now we've learned we can design all the parts on one plate,
on the machine,
have the wire cut them out over the weekend, and when you come in on Monday, shake them out, and there they are. You're probably doing the same thing with your printer, that type of thing. In my extended period of time, I've seen the increase or the improvement of self-threading wire. And so if a wire breaks in the middle of the night, you don't lose a whole weekend. I've seen the machines that can call you at home and say, hey, I ran out of wire. All of these things going on. And I find that to be the most helpful for the tooling industry. From the basic engineering side, I'm finding, as you mentioned, the PLCs. So the PLCs are very interesting, that they can do so much if you know what to do with them. I designed a tool in the 2005, 2006 that had multiple different stamp parts in it, and the PLC would turn the components on and off. And so as the machine was running, the PLC was actually running the punches up and down and all of this stuff. So I find the PLCs and electronics have come a long way. Safety's being built into all equipment. There's the intuition in the equipment. It will notice that things are starting to dull and the load will go up, and it just shut everything down, and it can tell you where that's happening. So the logic and the intelligence in
very smart, isn't it?
In manufacturing is very, very exciting. So
I think it gives you more control. It saves obviously lost time, safety as well. Specifically, like you said, if a tool's going down or starting to go, you literally stop it before something breaks or someone gets hurt, or it can stop itself. But I think also on the efficiency side as well, you can get more out of the machine. You can get more out of your people as well. As an engineer, you can once you understand how to set something up, you can be looking at something else at the same time safely, in the knowledge that it can run without you as well. That automation, lights out machine has been running for a long time, but you combine that with PLC automation, Internet of Things, if you want as well. So everything's connected and running there. I think it's a fascinating time for engineering.
The other item that I saw that really helped a lot, there was one company I was working for, high-speed stamping, reel-to-reel for insert molding and all of this. You probably know who they are. And we went to vision systems on the stampings.
Yeah.
So as the parts were coming off the press, you were getting a picture of every one at 600 strokes a minute. I mean, the technology is unbelievable.
It's crazy, isn't it? I remember the first time I saw that vision system. I think it was a food factory. The vision system, I think it had an infrared system in there, and it could check the temperature of the food item type of thing, and it was auto rejecting as well. I mean, that's a number of years ago. The first time I ever saw it live, it was like that. That's
Right.
very, very impressive.
Yep.
It really, really is.
So,
So things have
and
come a
every
long
year they
way.
come up with, yeah,
They do as well. Obviously, everyone's talking about AI and how that's going to impact, etc. But that's
right.
who knows. I don't think anyone can really predict it. From in the manufacturing industry, obviously, you're in I say not a privileged position, but a unique position where you've still in your career, you've had a career, but also you get to see people quite intimately at the start of their career as well, and you get to have a big impact on them and how they start. What kind of misconceptions are you hearing, feeling, countering, objection handling, or just downright correcting that people are having about manufacturing as a career?
That it's old, it's antiquated, and the shop's not air conditioned, and the equipment is run down.
Yeah,
And then one trip, and I take them to New Jersey Precision,
yeah, it's
and it
gone.
all goes away. I don't know if you've been there, but it's amazing.
It's fascinating.
And there are people I tell about the one stamping job I had with the high speed stamping, and I say, if I tell you it's like going into a laboratory, people don't believe it. And then you show them video or you take them there, and it's unbelievable. So it can be a state of the art. It can be. So
No,
that's my next job is going to be to improve the situation there.
fantastic, and it's what things need. I remember the first time I ever went. There was a factory in the city where I'm from, Birmingham in the UK, and they made cartridge nibs pens. And outside, it looked like I don't want to be, and everything's boarded up with cages on the windows, etc. I went there for a meeting to recruit a stamping tooling engineer in about 2008, a long time ago. And I was generally, I don't want to be here in this area. I walked in and it was
Mm-hmm.
immaculate. It was like a lab because as well as doing the cartridge nibs, they were doing medical components, the electronic components. It wasn't
There you
quite
go.
clean room, but
Yep.
it was nearly there, and it was kind of this is different. It wasn't the fiery forge of mental image that you have about manufacturing that I knew about, but it reaffirmed that for me that no, this is different. This is professional. This is world class.
And for an engineer, even like just out of school, it's so exciting to walk into that environment. Maybe my mom or my dad wouldn't understand it,
Yeah,
but for engineers, designers, tool and die makers, it's like, wow, just wow.
it is. I think it's quite
So,
satisfying as well, and what you can achieve in those environments because people want to be there. You care. It creates that
hmm
want to do something good. So
yep.
obviously you've had a great career with regard to tooling and engineering and manufacturing and machining and educating and quality and leading and sales and etc etc. I don't think I use this word too strongly. If I do, please correct me. But what do you love about manufacturing? Because there's got to be a
Building.
passion there.
I, to me, there's nothing more exciting than designing a
Yeah,
tool, having it built, watching it go into press and run 800 strokes a minute. It's exciting.
you still get that
Just
buzz
so much.
to making it happen.
Still, every time. Every time.
That's wonderful.
Yep. And for me, a good, depending on the size of the company, but I've been in with design teams. Well, like when you get on a big project, you need 3 or 4 people. And for me, a good team is fun. I'm still friends with coworkers from 1987.
That's wonderful to hear. So, as well as if you want having a career, you've also made friends for life. In terms of that's what you love or what you enjoy so much, what are the challenges?
For me personally, it's keeping up with the technology. As we described, the cobots and the
Yeah,
electronics and the sensoring and the vision systems, that for me, the mechanical end of it will never change, other than in what would you call it, inventive ideas. But the technology is amazing. It's really hard to keep up.
yeah, no, I'd agree. So, talking about the future now, what would you say to young people who are figuring out their career paths? What would you be the piece of advice that you give them?
Find a good manufacturing company, stay with it.
Yeah,
Stay with it. Learn the skills. Learn as much as you can in every area, not just the tooling area. So, because guys can be really good at CNC, but at some point they may be asked to manage a CNC department. And if they're managing a CNC department, they're going to be influenced by the design department and all of this thing. And that's kind of how it happened to me too.
so if their company, as sometimes happens, like you said, people are if you put in a department, if they're pigeonholed or not necessarily given the opportunity because of whatever reason to be involved in their company's department, would you advise external and personal learning on the side as well to keep abreast with technology?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Let your employer pay for it.
Absolutely, it's a test if
Yeah.
they do, I guess, as well. In the future, what are you excited about the future of manufacturing? Because things are changing quickly. We don't know what technology is going to be there within the next year, never mind the next 5-10 years. None of us really know. But what excites you about the changes that are coming?
Well, having spent a year working with a cobot, I could see a lot of that being automated stuff. It's been interesting to see automation. So it's always fun to follow the automotive industry because their assembly lines are state of the art.
Yeah, they are.
I find that very interesting as well. And as you mentioned with your sons, the CMM part of it has really taken off. I mean, I see measurements being done in that field that it's like space age.
It's fantastic, isn't it? It really is.
Yep.
Just fascinating to see with regards to technology now what can happen.
Yep.
Bob, if you didn't work in manufacturing, what would you be doing? You knew it was coming.
I used to tell I used to tell my parents the same thing. I think I'd be a good accountant. I like the numbers.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think that's because it's logical, such as manufacturing? There's a process there as well.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's why I actually do very well in computers as well. I'm comfortable with them. It doesn't, nothing frightens me. But I think accounting would have been it. So.
Fantastic.
I have a neighbor I'm friends with who's in the financial world. He tells me stay out of it, so I take his advice.
Once again, it's another area that I've got a very, very close kind of business associate of mine who by trade is an accountant, and that's another area that's been hit by AI as well with regard to the entry level bookkeeping type sectors. And there's heavily advertised in the news that the big accountancy firms globally are taking less people on because they're automating, which is obviously industry disruption, which is interesting to hear, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, it's frightening actually.
No, it is. It really is absolutely for industries, but no, manufacturing forever. So, final thought: 17-year-old Bob is listening to this somehow on a whatever he is, and he's walking through the street. What advice would you give to him?
Take a walk over to your local technical college.
Yeah.
See what they have to say. At least get a walk around and get somebody to talk to.
Fantastic. No, great advice.
Yep.
Bob, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, to hear your insight, to hear both sides of the manufacturing and also the education side of it. I hope that anyone listening that, if you want, is considering, or their family member or their partner or whoever they know is considering, or themselves is considering a career in manufacturing, will take on some of your advice and hit the books, learn the numbers, and pick up a tool.
That's it.
Bob, it's been
I appreciate you.
No, you're more than welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Wow, that was great to hear from Bob. Such a fantastic guy, such an interesting story as well, especially with the leadership and also the training and the motivation and inspiration of the next generation of founders. Wonderful to have you on. If you're interested in hiring or if you're interested in career manufacturing, please visit our sponsor, haroldpatrick.com, to learn more about the recruitment side of the business does. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Workstation Podcast. Please feel free to subscribe, to like, to share. It matters so much to us and so much to next generation manufacturers if we will just share the good news. And of course, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, please contact us on the platform or on hello@theworkstationpod.com. Thank you. Bye-bye.